Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. Today is the opening day of the 2005 legislature. The school system will certainly be something that will be under a lot of discussion for the next 4 months. Scott Craigie has the rundown.
And it is appropriate that we open up this program talking about one of Nevada's $2 billion babies. Public education in Nevada prices itself out in 10 figures. And today we're going to talk to two leaders in the education associations, Terry Hickman and Lynn Warne, and talk about not only the budget, but some of the programs that are being discussed in the legislature. That's what's on today on Nevada Newsmakers.
And coming up on the Power Pundit panel today, Bill Brainard, Bob Crowell, and Dick Gammick. It's all coming up next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Many of the materials we rely on every day come from the ground, and modern mining technology brings them to us cleaner and safer than ever before. To learn more about America's natural resources, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
If it's hot, it's here at the Pepper Mill. The Pepper Mill has over 500 of the hottest video theme slots. And with the $100,000 Winter Video Theme Slot Fest, there's no smarter time to play these winning machines. Win your share of the money with $2,000 random cash giveaways every Monday and $5,000 drawings every Friday. And new players can get up to $100 free play.
The slots that rock are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you winning?
If you own a business and want to maximize your company's potential, join the Retail Association of Nevada. Our membership benefits include the Nevada Retail Network Self-Insured Group, providing workers' compensation coverage that can lower your rates. That savings can go directly to your bottom line. We are an effective pro-business organization that lobbies on behalf of our business members. The Retail Association of Nevada, protecting Nevada businesses for 35 years.
Where do I want to go?
Me?
Denver. Anchorage, Alaska.
Atlanta. Vancouver.
Chicago.
We can help you get where you need to be or want to be. Reno Tahoe International Airport. Anytime, any place, anywhere.
Anywhere?
Minneapolis.
St. Paul.
Over 170 daily flights, non-stop service to 19 cities and connections everywhere else. Reno Tahoe International Airport. Dedicated to moving you.
Jupiter.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And on Nevada Newsmakers today, education is the topic. And Terry Hickman joins us. He's the president of the Nevada State Education Association, and Lynn Warne, president of the Washoe Education Association. Let's start out with you, Terry. Your petition to get education funding to the national average failed in the last session, but in the last election. But it won in Clark County big time, but failed in the whole state. Do you plan to bring it back in 2006?
Well, what we really want to say is that the education funding is still our #1 priority, and even though question 2 did not succeed, that the issue behind it, or what's driving it, is the fact that we still need to have education fixed and the long-term solution. And we're looking towards this legislature to be able to do that.
Okay, Lynn, were you surprised that it failed up here in the north?
Yes, I was. And though it did fail, there were an awful lot of people that still voted for it. So I think there is the recognition that there is a need for additional funds in education, but yes, unfortunately, we didn't get quite there.
One of the big issues that's on the table this cycle actually cuts the other direction. There's a lot of talk about property tax reform. In fact, the RJ reported yesterday that all 63 legislators are on the same page on this. And actually, it was Sharon Engel that said everyone's on the same page. All 63 legislators have promised quick action. If you cut property taxes, that's one of the base areas that education funding comes from. How do you make it up? What happens to education in that case?
Well, the governor has already said that whatever is taken out of the budget by the property tax cap or whatever would happen, the state is required by the Constitution to replenish it.
But the problem that we've had is that the state portion of public education funding is where we've had the greatest difficulty getting that money.
That's correct. And in fact, in this year's budget, it's down 2%. Here we are in the time of when Nevada is not in a recession, it is going really well, and yet it's still facing the distributed school account is down 2% from 2 years ago. So yeah, it is a major issue, and it will probably lead to more state, it will have to have more state revenue, which I hope everyone will think about. They may be on the same page, but I hope they understand the impact it's going to have on public education as well as all public services.
Probably near term and long term.
Yeah, and I also want to point out that they may all be on the same page, but probably with different notations. The governor proposed in his budget speech that he wants to give teachers a 2% raise over each year for the next 2 years. But he did link in the second year to performance, like merit pay. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, we don't think that there should be any linkage to anything other than a cost of living adjustment. It's very amazing to us when 2 years ago we had a $700 million deficit, and the raises that teachers and support professionals were offered was a 2 and 2. We are now in a $370 million surplus. The raise that teachers are being offered in support professionals is 2 and 2. Something is terribly wrong with the funding system here in the state of Nevada, where in good times and bad, we're getting a very small raise, much less the other things that we need for the classroom and for our students.
Well, can I also point out that Senator Washoe said here on this program that he thought the surplus was going to be more around $850 million, and from the Nevada Taxpayers Association, the surplus could be around $1 billion.
So you're talking to the teachers that are out in the schools, and you just mentioned something that's very important. I want to add to that. I understand that, Lynn, people have to go back to school because of No Child Left Behind and become a highly qualified teacher. Many, in fact, a large number of the state's teachers are doing that. There must be some level of frustration in the ranks that, here we are being asked to do more pressure based on No Child Left Behind and all the other things, more education, and yet the funding is staying the same.
It is very frustrating for our folks. They are out there, they are working very hard. They have never shied away from any kind of level of accountability. They do a good job. They know what their students, they have high expectations for their students. They know what they can achieve. But when you have an artificial bar that's ever rising, attached to the No Child Left Behind, well, it's hard and it is challenging. And then when you are recognized with only a 2% raise and then a maybe kind of 2% raise attached to like the pay performance piece that you were talking about, it's difficult. It's difficult.
Okay, let's talk about increased funding for supplies, textbooks, things like that. Are the horror stories that we seem to hear real or not?
They're very real. I can give you my own personal story. I helped open a school here in Nevada, and the biology teachers, of which there were 4, there were enough textbooks for 2 of them. So they put their textbooks on carts and rolled them between the classes. And that should never be. Why our students can't have textbooks, why our students can't have the things that we believe that are necessary for teaching tools, we don't understand. Here we are in a state that has the ability to do it. Does it lack the commitment? Does it lack the priority? Does it lack the funding? What is it lacking? Because our students, we want to build a future here with skilled workforce, yet we are not putting forward things that we think will make a difference, such as full-day kindergarten.
So food for thought before we go to our first break. Curious to know, specifically, what is your tax revenue plan as the representatives of the education community when you go to the legislature today and through this next 120?
Well, we're going to be looking and asking a lot of questions about the current funding situation. As I said, we're very concerned about a time of wealth and a time of drought. It seems to be the same. We think that the funding situation definitely needs to be looked at by the legislators. The money is there this session. It needs to be put into the classroom, and so there's a real difference for our kids.
So you're not putting a specific tax spend program on the table?
No.
No.
And let me ask you this. I mean, Jim Rogers, the interim chancellor, is looking for a 20% hike in the university system's budget. Are you guys going to be able to work together to come out with something that's fair for both ends of the education system?
Well, it's certainly something we're going to look at. It is something that we feel that is that we work together. We have a K to 16 public education system here. We need to work together to make sure that we put in the resources that are going to make a difference at the front end of that system, such as full-day kindergarten, small class sizes. Small class sizes should not mean that when you get to college, that is your first English class of 28 students, when our high schools are sitting at 30 to 35 and sometimes 40. That needs to be changed.
Okay, and we'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
Nevada Newsmakers, brought to you in part by Sunbelt Communication.
So, who do you use for workers' comp?
Pro Group Management.
Ah, I've heard some good things about them.
You bet. Employee background checks, safety training, claim seminars. Oh, and here's the great part. If you have an issue, they work for you, not against you.
Sounds perfect. And expensive.
Well, that's the best part. They saved me 30%. I've heard they've saved others 50%.
Works for me. Pro Group Management. Finally, workers' comp that works for you.
For more than a decade, the Southern Nevada Water Authority has been helping the community embrace conservation as a way of life. That includes replacing more than 50 million square feet of grass with water-smart landscaping. During the worst drought on record, watering restrictions and tough landscaping codes have reduced the community's water use by billions of gallons, even as thousands of new residents were moving into Nevada. That's smart water management, and that's our promise to Nevada.
Something spectacular has taken wing not far from Reno or Lake Tahoe, and never far from your mind. An escape of fine dining and legendary golf. Introducing the resort at Red Hawk. And at the center of it all, we've feathered our nest with new villas that have elevated Red Hawk to the status of a premier resort. The Resort at Red Hawk, a beautiful new arrival in northern Nevada.
When you need a new employee, how can you be sure who you're really hiring? A background investigation by Employer Links will uncover criminal records, verify the applicant's education, check their credit history and Social Security verification. An investigation will research professional licenses and driver's licenses and let you know why they're unemployed. Hiring the right person shouldn't be a gamble. Call Employer Links. Employer Links, protecting your investment.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're talking with Terry Hickman and Lynn Warne.
So initiatives are hot, and we all know that, and more and more people go to initiatives. Actually, George Harris got an initiative qualified in North Las Vegas that said that anytime a pay raise is given to city employees, it has to be voted on by the city council and by the voters. And that's just pay raises in a city council level. If the property tax initiatives that are out there right now in the legislature aren't successful in holding it back, Lynn, it looks to me like there could be a host of initiative petitions that go out that would make permanent changes forever. What kind of a plan have you got to counter that?
Well, we're going to have to watch the discussion as it unfolds. I mean, those are some dangerous discussions with high impact on school districts, you know, and our folks that we've got out in the classrooms. We'll have to watch how those go. It is concerning, and unless it is addressed here in the legislature, I do fear that we will see quite a few initiatives on the ballot.
And so what things do you think would trigger it the most? If the rebate didn't go forward, if it does go forward, does that take the steam out of it? Does there have to be some kind of property tax cap passed? What do you think will stop that next level of serious initiatives?
I don't know. We're going to have to see, again, like I said, how the discussion unfolds, that there's some serious consideration to all different proposals that are out there. I'm fearful that we are going to look for a permanent fix to a temporary situation, and I think we need to avoid that sort of thing. But we do need to provide relief to the folks that need it the most.
Terry, the Democrats have come up with this proposal for a state lottery. Some say that a lottery preys on the poor. What do you think about a state lottery to help pay for education?
Well, anything, I guess, would help, but it is certainly a small amount. It's about 30 to 50 million, somewhere in there. And that would certainly buy some textbooks and those kinds of things, but it is a very small fix to a very large problem.
And Lynn, do you think gaming would allow it?
Well, I think they're going to have some concerns about the way it's going to unfold. I've had concerns before in the past, and as we know, lottery has never flown before with the legislature, so we'll have to see again how that goes. But like Terry said, it's just a very small step of many that we're going to need to take to get some adequate funding into our classrooms.
You know, accountability has gone a long way. You go on the website for the State Board of Education, you can find every school and you can look at all the stats about it. And accountability is probably a good thing. Now we have the governor proposing accountability for school principals. If they don't meet the annual progress level for their students in their school, he's proposing that they be let go, be removed from that job. How do the educators, how do you as a representative of the educators feel about that, Lynn?
Well, I think it's concerning. I mean, the principal is the educational leader in the school, and there are many other factors that come into the success or, you know, needs improvement designation that a school might fall under. And to take away their educational leader in a principal, I think is defeating the purpose. We need to look at how to improve the school. Let's not just, you know, point some fingers, blame.
Could that concept roll over to teachers someday, Terry?
Well, there's always that possibility, but I'd like to point out that the governor's proposal for the $100 million to help the schools that need improvement really is a statement of what is not in No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind was passed by Congress and bipartisan and sent to the states to say we're going to fund education to make a difference, and these are the standards that we're going to set. So what has happened is the federal government has mandated but not funded. So the state of Nevada now is going to take $100 million from the citizens of Nevada and now put it into our schools, which should have been done and should be done by the federal government. So that is very concerning to us, that the federal government's share is now being placed upon the backs of the taxpayers of Nevada.
In the governor's budget, Terry, he recommended that we stop giving retirement benefits or health benefits to new hires in retirement. What is your thought about that?
Well, I'm very concerned, and we're very concerned because we're talking about teachers and not state employees or support professionals either, but when they retire, they're allowed to go into the state plan. Now, it's not paid for totally like a state employee. They do have to pay a fee based upon their years of service as a teacher or a support professional, but we're very concerned that it is a disincentive. When a person retires, teachers and educators do pay into Medicare, but should you retire between 55 and 65, you would literally have no health insurance. And again, when you're recruiting people, and I've already said that it has to be upfront. It cannot be a surprise. It must be clearly stated that if you are a new hire in Nevada, you will have no health insurance when you retire. That needs to be clearly stated, and I think that is not what we want to say to new hires.
Okay, Lynn, what do you think about the governor's point is that you don't get this kind of benefit in private enterprise?
Well, you know, when you're looking at some low salaries, and unfortunately we're kind of looking at, you know, some compensation levels that are not near the national average, you need to look at other incentives and benefits that come along with that position. So to entice someone to work for the state and then to stay working for the state, that's a benefit that's going to retain that employee until retirement. Without that there, I think we're going to maybe see, you know, a difficult time recruiting folks to come work in the state.
Especially when we have to hire 3 out of 4 new teachers from out of state.
Absolutely.
When you're taking a look at teachers that are coming in here and going forward, what's the biggest thing we can do in order to recruit teachers from out of state?
Pay them a living salary.
A living salary and give them the best working conditions possible. And certainly in some states they help new hires get into a home as soon as possible. And with the skyrocketing prices of homes here in the Reno area and also Las Vegas, a new hire looks at that and saying, I can teach in this community, but I'll never be able to live. And that needs to change.
Lynn, last question here. Do you think Governor Gwynn will be remembered as the education governor, or are some of his proposals like this merit pay and cutting the health benefits for teachers change or ruin his legacy?
I think he's made some important steps, you know, in positive in the area of education. There are some areas of concern. I think he has worked collaboratively with us to try and address some of the challenges facing education, not only here in Nevada, but around the country. So I think he's done a good job, but I think there's some things we still need to work on.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this timeout.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Reno Reno's best dining values are all at one casino, the Pepper Mill. You can enjoy great savings on our popular specials. Pepper Mill's coffee shop offers daily lunch specials, low-carb dining, and all your favorite comfort foods. You'll find sensational lunch specials featuring Reno's freshest seafood, sushi, pasta, and more at Oceano. And early bird specials at Reno's Premier Steakhouse and Romanza Ristorante Italiano. The best values are at the Pepper Mill. Where are you dining?
Thanks to an ongoing commitment by America's mining companies, more than 2 million acres already have been reclaimed. To learn more about reclamation or other aspects of mining, visit nma.org, the National Mining Association.
And now, back to Nevada Newsmakers with Sam Shad.
And we've got a great pundit panel for you today. As always, Bill Brainard is here, community activist. We also have Bob Crowell with the Crowell Group and Dick Gammick, Washoe County District Attorney. Welcome to all of you.
You know, we ought to start out by just doing a reaction to the two-segment interview we had with the education leaders. Bob, you're on a school board. I'll lead off with you.
Well, you know what I thought, one of the interesting questions you had of Terry was, you know, how about our principals with the school who doesn't make annual yearly progress? What do you do with that principal? And you know, there's some nuances here that the public should know, and that is that the test scores, the passing proficiency test scores in Nevada to meet AYP are 5 times higher than they are in Texas. 5 times. That means that in Nevada, where a principal doesn't make annual yearly progress, could get fired, that same principal in Texas could get a raise. That's bizarre, and that's berserk.
Actually, I was not aware of that.
That's right.
Amazing. That's why it worked in Texas, and the president took it to the nation. Didn't keep the same standards, though.
Well, what it says is, you know, when you talk about accountability and standards, you have to be very careful. You know, when you use a broad brush, you've got to be careful where that brush paints, and that's an inequity in the system. And you know what bothers me as a local school board person is that we get tarred with saying you failed, even though the federal government will say, look, we never use the word fail in the statute. If you don't make annual yearly progress, you're tagged as a failure. That means your school district is, your principals, your administrators, your teachers, and your students. That's unfair, particularly when you can go next door and be a hero.
And it certainly doesn't help motivate the kids or the families.
It surely does not.
Dick, what was your reaction to some of the comments that were made?
Well, I just, from what Bob said, I just got some serious questions here on where are we in this state? You get the headlines one day, you see we're one of the worst in the country. You get the headlines the next day, and you see that everybody passed, we're doing just copacetic. What does bother me is the fact that we have people on Millennium Scholarships at the universities who are taking bonehead English and bonehead math. Something's wrong with the system there. Yeah. I'm definitely pro-education, but I've got one big question here. What is enough money? When do we quit spending money and do it smarter? And I'm not sure I don't know what the answer is. I really don't.
But you know, the story of the textbooks being shuttled from one classroom to the next, doesn't that concern you?
That's crazy, no question. But we're sinking. We started off with Governor Gwynn 6 years ago saying we spend 52% of our state budget on education, and that he was going to make more accountability and not spend so much money. But now he just recommended another $100 million for No Child Left Behind, another $500 million new money into the education system. It just keeps pouring in there. But how do we do that? And yeah, not having enough books, that's nuts. I mean,
well, and also, Bill, I mean, just to get your take on this, I mean, we're also looking at the huge increases in the number of kids coming to classrooms, huge increases in the number of schools that are needed.
Well, let me go to the salary issue that was brought up. As far as that's concerned, you know, as far as teacher salary, I was one of those that voted against that particular provision, trying to make an average. There are so many things thrown into salaries that, you know, weren't being talked about, whether facilities were being added in, whether there were benefits being added in. I'll get to your book question in a minute.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, but I just want to say something about the, you know, averaging out salaries. That's not a good idea. You should pay, you know, whatever this state should support, it should support. I came from California, where we gave battle pay if you went down into South Central Los Angeles, and they deserve battle pay. But you have to look at each individual one. Now back to the books. You know, I think when I was in high school, we had to buy our own books. So I guess parents have some responsibility to step forward. I know the state is supposed to pay for education. That's true, but not everything in education. You know, you bring children into this world, you have certain responsibilities, and if your child doesn't have a book in school, go out and do something about getting him or her a book.
Well, I think that goes to the issue of what we mean when we say how money is going to get spent. I mean, I have a degree of sympathy with what Dick said, you know, on the accountability issues. But as I look at it, you know, accountability to me as a local school board member says this: if you're going to require me to hit a bar or hit a target, then let me decide how to spend the money. Don't just willy-nilly raise a bar or put an arbitrary bar there and then say, look, you know, we're going to fund it, but if you complain about the funding, we're going to criticize you. I don't, you know, to me, I just as soon say, you know, set the bar, tell me how I'm going to, you know, give me the latitude to raise the money or not, and if I don't spend it right, vote me out.
But set a fair bar. The annual yearly progress, let's talk quickly about what that is. That means that every child who is below grade level has to grow a full year's grade level each year, plus an increment toward getting to grade level. That means that a foreign language student that comes to Nevada, whether they come into Reno or Carson or Vegas, and there are a lot of them every single year, we hire their families into our businesses. Those children who don't speak English have to make a full year's achievement plus an increment speaking a foreign language.
They do. And
it's
you know,
a little unrealistic.
Well, it's more than that. You know, there are studies that show that for a person to become proficient in English language, if you come here and you're not proficient, it takes 6 years. 6 years to learn our language, to be proficient. At the same time, we're testing that person right out of the chute under our rules, under our language, and if that person fails, our district fails.
You know, when people did immigrate into this country, they had a tendency to teach their children at night after they got home, or they sent them off to tutors or to other institutions that would learn.
Is that realistic?
Well, not for some folk because they can't afford it.
Well,
but
but
it's
not only
certainly
that, but both members of the household, for the most part, young working families, they're out there working. Maybe in some cases 2 jobs.
Well, let me give another example here.
You have 10 seconds.
Even Start funds, which are a big issue on teaching young kids how to learn English language, being cut by the federal government's budget right now.
The feds haven't stepped up.
And we're out of time. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers after this.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
In your roof, or a whole new roof, the folks at Van Dyne Roofing can get it fixed with their eyes closed.
It's America's largest historical district, and it's fun for the entire family. Virginia City is where the West comes alive every day, from train rides to gunslingers. Your gang can explore mines and interesting museums, visit historic saloons, and do some great shopping. Virginia City is the ultimate in family entertainment, and it's very affordable. Come up and stay overnight in our hotels, motels, and RV park. Virginia City, the Wild West at its best. As always, love to get your emails at newsmakers@kvbc.com and newsmakers@krnv.com. Who's coming up tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow we have Clark County School Superintendent and Firebrand Carlos Garcia.
We'll see you tomorrow.